Welcome to the GSIC Podcast, where we speak with leaders from the global sports innovation ecosystem about technologies, ideas, and strategies shaping the future of sport. I'm Virginia Rios from the Global Sport Innovation Center, powered by Microsoft, and today we're joined by Darrick DJ Johnson, founder and CEO of Sherpa. DA works at the intersection of artificial intelligence, data platforms, and sport operations, helping organizations translate advanced AI capabilities into real-world impact. DA, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Super excited about the conversation with you guys. Really fired up today about the conversation.
DA, one challenge we hear frequently from sports organizations is how fragmented their technology and data systems are. From your experience working across sports and technology, how big of a problem is this today?
Something that I did notice early on in my career was just how fragmented some of these systems were. And then coming from, Silicon Valley and working with some of the biggest software companies in the world, I was like, companies, they definitely buy software, they buy different things, even like competitor platforms, but when they do, they're always looking at, hey, how can we actually integrate this together to make our own internal ecosystem? Sports wasn't that way. So when I started Sherpa, it was really just by like lived experiences, talking with a lot of my friends who were coaches, athletic directors, and then, coming from the sports agency world, I was like, man, if someone was able to kind of consolidate all these different softwares and get more out of scouting, recruiting, video intelligence, contract management, even simple things as like expenses to find out what's the ROI on a player. Wanted to make for a better customer and player experience and ultimately an athlete experience, but also help kind of modernize the way front offices work.
Why do you think this problem has persisted for so long in the sports industry compared to other sectors?
I feel like for a long time, it was always, hey, we have this software, it's essentially a one size fits all. They weren't forced to innovate, right? If I know that I'm going to a conversation and I'm buying a software, but I can't make it customizable, or I can't bring my own data, or it's really not going to fit my needs, but it's the only thing available out there, then essentially I'm going to just sit and I don't have to evolve, right? Infrastructure is one of those big things. Like, everybody wants to do things with AI. They want to do like modernized like data estate stuff, but going back to the Silicon Valley example, you can't run any AI applications if your infrastructure is not ready. So sports is going through that transformation the same way banking and healthcare did, right? The good thing is, I think like companies like ours are coming to market and kind of like forcing some of these industry leaders to think differently with how they approach customers and how they do things. The other good thing is there's so many different technologies out there now that we do have the tools and means to actually kind of like do a modernized transformation for a sports organization, not overnight, but we actually have a path forward to actually do that now to make the infrastructure better and actually be ready to use the AI tools that are available in today's ecosystem.
Many organizations want to start using AI, but they often underestimate the importance of infrastructure. Why is infrastructure such a critical step before adopting AI?
AI is only as good as the data that it pulls from. So first thing we always tell them is like, hey, let's essentially figure out what you're running today, what data sources you have. Let's get that in one holistic view first. Then from there, we can kind of build out your quote unquote like playbook to figure out your technology strategy as you move forward. And I will say you'll be surprised. Like a lot of these organizations, they don't know. They're like, man, I didn't know that we could even do this. We didn't know it was possible. So it's kind of cool for us to even be like looked at as like thought leaders in this space to say, well, hey, you know what? You don't have to do the things the same way that your competitors are doing, because you do have different needs and different data for your players and organizational needs from fan engagement and stuff. You guys can actually make this actually kind of like one of one to meet your actual like business needs. But I tell everybody, like, start with the data. Like, data is king. If you don't have the data, then there's really, no starting point at all.
Looking ahead, how do you see AI transforming the sports industry over the next 5 years?
When I think about us fast forward, even if you're not running the entire Sherpa software, there should be bits and components that you're using from Sherpa to power your front office. And that's our ultimate goal, right? I think of like companies like Snowflake. They're hybrid. They partner with Google, Microsoft, AWS. That's how we want to be, right? We want to be looked at as like, hey, you know what? Sherpa is amazing. It integrates great with all of our products. In some way, shape, or form, if we fast forward 5 years from now, you have some type of Sherpa application or Sherpa product that's running in your technology stack.
So now let's move to a short rapid fire segment, just quick action answers. And the first things that comes to mind. One problem statement your company solves.
So AI agents. I think there's a lot of talk about like AI agents like out of the box. I think something that we solve really well is like we actually work with the customers one-to-one and build out AI agents that fit their needs, from player persona all the way to financial personas, right? So that's one thing that we come in and we do a really good job with white glove servicing with building AI agents that actually work for your organization and your needs.
One capability every sports executive will need in the AI era.
Man, that's tough. Uh, I would say like data literacy, right? So not necessarily saying like data science, but like understanding your environment and ecosystem, where those databases sit, exactly what you want out of that data, essentially just understanding how it moves and how it works. I think, if I look at all the companies across the world, the best ones, they do the most with their data and they understand how it operates. So definitely having that data literacy is going to be key for organizations as we move forward.
One innovation trend in sports tech that people are still underestimating.
Man, I see a lot of interesting technology coming to market now. I think if there's one piece that we've underestimated is video intelligence. So if you think about image recognition, computer intelligence, like that's going to be a really, really big piece as we continue to kind of growing in this space. It's funny right now because I think it's so easy to maybe spin something up for like computer vision, but when you start thinking about like football, basketball, volleyball, baseball, soccer, it's really hard to get the most out of that video imaging. So I think, that's going to be something as we move forward. I think teams are going to be really like pushing on vendors to do more with, their video analytic data, just because there's so much stuff and so many tools around it today. But I think that's something that's like really like underlooked today that if I fast forward 10 years, there won't be a sports team at any level that won't be leveraging video analytic data for computer vision.
We look at I initially said 10, but we think we should think about the 5 years ahead. What excites you most about future of technology in sports?
I was thinking about this morning, and like I've been fortunate enough. So like I started in technology back in like 2012 after I got back from Canada. And I've seen the industry go through like three major changes. So first we had the cloud computing change, right? So companies moving their data from on-prem into cloud providers. I had a chance to see the like whole like cybersecurity like era as well, which was a whole thing when people were moving their data, but then their data was getting stolen from people like AWS and Azure and Google, right? And then now like being in the AI space, being a part of that era, like having a front row seat. I think I feel like sports is finally getting their just due with just technology innovation, and not just like on device, but like there's actually like SaaS products that are coming to market that are going to help teams have better experiences and get better outputs. Like even in the big data era, I feel like a lot of companies like honed in on that, but I feel like sports was kind of like left behind a little bit. So it is really exciting just to see that like sports is kind of going through that like revamp period where right now it's really, really tough. It's really, really ugly. People don't understand what's going on. Some people don't trust AI, but I do truly believe that like the early adopters in the sports industry of AI will be the winners as we move forward. So it's just cool to really just be a part of it and like see that transition and actually have teams asking like, well, hey, like what more ways can we leverage AI just around just a chat GPT, right? Like they want to do more stuff with it. So it's just really cool and like really the honor just to be a part of it.